Hi, this is section 11.5, objective 4, another example here. This is one that you'll see quite a bit if you take college algebra or your future classes in mathematics. It talks about a ball is projected upwards from the ground. So kind of think about this, they're throwing it up and then it comes back down. It says its distance in feet from the ground in t seconds is s of t. Okay, so this represents the time, the t, and then that's the x-axis, and then the y-axis would be how high up it is from the ground. Okay, and this would be feet, and this would be seconds, I believe. Feet. Yeah, so, okay, so this would be in seconds, and this would be in feet. Okay, so their question, at what time will the ball be at 32 feet from the ground? Okay, so if you think about this, if this is 32 feet, they're asking, what are the two times? One's going up and one's going down. The ball goes up and it goes back down. So they're asking for these two answers right here. So the way we find that is, since s of t represents the distance from the ground and they're telling us it's 32, what I'm going to do is I'm going to plug in 32 for s of t. Okay, so I have this on two sides here. Okay. So they're saying what time, and again, we can tell it's going to be, by looking at this, you can tell it's going to be one time when it's going up, and then once it's coming down. Okay, so I took this original equation right here, and I plugged in 32, because that's how many feet it is above the ground. Okay, so this is a quadratic equation. I want to bring everything to the left-hand side, so I added 16t squared, subtracted 64t, left the 32 there. And then again, just to make it easier, what I did was since I have an equation, I could divide both sides by the same thing. I see in the she factored it, but it's just as easy to divide everything by. I divide everything by 16. When I divide this by 16, I get t squared. When I divide this by 16, I get negative 4t. Divide this by 16, I get 2. Okay, so now we have a much easier quadratic equation than this first one. This will be much easier put in the quadratic formula. You could do either one, but again, this is easier. So a is 1, b is negative 4, and c is 2. Okay, so over here I have the quadratic formula. I put t instead of x. That's the only thing different. So, okay, so it's negative b. Here's b. So negative b would be positive 4 plus or minus b squared, negative 4 squared, minus 4 times a times c. So here's my a and here's my c. So 4 times 1 times 2. All over 2 times a, 2 times 1. Okay, so this becomes 2. Negative 4 squared is negative 4 times negative 4. So that becomes 16. And 4 times 1 times 2 gives me 8. 16 minus 8 gives me 8. And if I want to put this as a radical form, again, I did this a little bit differently than her sheet. But the square root of 8 has a factor that's a perfect square, 4 times 2. So I want to put in simplified radical form. The square root of 4 is 2. So I get 4 plus or minus. This part is 2 times the square root of 2 over 2. Okay, and then what I did was I put both of these over 2. So I put this over 2 right here, the plus or minus, and I put this one over 2 right here, which is nice because then it factors out. This comes out to be 2. These 2's cancel out, and I just get I get square root of 2. So again, this becomes 2, and then plus or minus, this becomes square root of 2. Okay, so we have two answers. Square root of 2, you'd have to plug that in your calculator. It's about 1.4. They want the answers in decimal form for this one. I'm just going to show you that here. It says they want it in to the nearest tenth, so they don't want it in radical form. They want it as a decimal. Okay. So I plugged in square root of 2 in my calculator, and it's about 1.41. That's rounded a little bit. So I'm going to take 2 plus square root of 2. So that gives me 3.41. And then 2 minus square root of 2. And that gives me 0.59. So these are my two answers. 3.4 seconds and 0.6 seconds. So going back to the picture, this would be the 0.6 seconds. That's when it's going up. Let me just kind of draw a picture here. This would be 0.6 seconds. And the other one would be 3.4 seconds. Okay. This problem down here we are skipping. There's nothing in the homework from that. I just decided to take that out.